Hello, everybody. I'm Natasha Restrepo, and this is my book review, Waiting for Godot, by Literature Novel Prize Samuel Beckett, and which premiere took place in 1953. First, we will explore a bit of Beckett's biography. So, who was this man? Samuel Barclay Beckett was an Irish novelist, playwright, theatre director, and poet who was born in 1906 in Dublin. He had access to good education since his family had the means. He had a way with words and a knack for languages. He traveled to Paris, where he met his country fellow James Joyce, and with whom he became great friends. Later, he met the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, and Austro-Hungarian Fritz Mautner, language philosopher and also writer, who had an impact on Beckett's work. All these people made a big impact on his ideas. There are some concepts that we need to understand before we explore the impact of Beckett's work and the importance of this play. Beckett was recognized for his use of black comedy, which refers to a comedy style that addresses sensitive topics and that are taboo, serious, or painful to discuss in lighter ways. Moreover, he became a minimalist, which means using less words than other writers of his time. This movement began in post-World War, Second World War, and a great way to see this reflected is his famous quote: "Every word is like an unnecessary stain on silence and nothingness." He was also one of the latest or last modernists, as well as an important icon in the theater of the absurd. And this can also be stated in this quote: "There is no meaning in the world beyond what meaning we give it." So, now, the reason why I chose this author is because I had an encounter with one of his productions, The Happy Days. It was performed in Cali by the theater group Mata Candela from Medellin, and I must have been, I don't know, it must have been like 17 years ago, and back then I was not really aware of the kind of person I would become. Ignoring how challenging Beckett could be for many, I watched the play and I don't know, it just got under my skin. I was completely fascinated by the dialogues. In the last 2 years, I found myself surrounded by doubt. I kind of knew it was a consequence of having access to all the things that happen around the world thanks to social media. But the feeling of sadness and the lack of sense has become increasingly strong. I just thought I was too exposed to bad news, and after a while, I found myself having these awkward conversations with some of my friends, where I really sounded kind of low, and really pessimistic, even suicidal for people who don't really know me. So I realized that at the end, maybe I just have the soul of an existentialist, and reading Beckett and learning about his ideas and the way these ideas triggered his work has provided me with an answer, or the answers that I was looking for and that I was afraid to ask around because I did not want to scare people away with some of my thoughts. So, therefore, if you ever feel a little bit lost and you too need to see that you're not alone in the inquiry of the universe and its meaning, and you know what? I think it is just okay to think that maybe certain things are just as life a little bit overrated. Even though there is more that I could share with you guys, let's just try to focus on his work. So let's see if I can convince you. Um, let's see if I can convince you why you really need to read this. So, his play Waiting for Godot is a metaphor of the absurd things in life and existentialism. I will not talk about what others have interpreted in depth because we would never come to an end, but the things that I could see from my own world. For those who have enrolled this course, our course, and participated in it. We have gone over movements and authors that coincidentally experienced the First and the Second World War. The effect of war in both cases was a spiritual anarchy and a lack of sense, actually, sense of no sense at all, with a lack of hope and endless despair. No wonder why the exquisite literature movements back then. So in this play, there are five different characters, and two of them, Vladimir and Estragon, can seem to stop talking about killing themselves. They have all sorts of conversations while they wait for another character called Godot, who never shows up. These conversations are simple at the beginning. Actually, they're kind of like pointless, but then they become confusing and a little bit difficult to follow. Some people have said that Godot might have been God, but to me it looked more like if they were waiting for the death. They help each other morally and physically, and I even consider, what if both characters are just the same person? I thought a bit of schizophrenia, could explain the lack of memory and their constant dialogue about dying at the same time and helping each other to die. Even their confusion about the time and the meaningless actions they carry out while they wait. So, why is Godot so important? Why isn't clear where he is and the time and moment he will arrive? So, isn't death a little bit like that? The monotonous environment they seem to be surrounded by, and the character of a kid that comes with news and tells them that Godot will arrive the next day. I kind of thought that the kid, being so young, could represent a bit of hope, a dream, maybe a promise that things will be better, which allows them to keep waiting. I found it quite particular to see the messenger was always a young, scared, and confused boy. If you think about it, dreaming and hoping is like a kid, very naive. There are two more characters that show up during the play. They show up twice. Lucky, who's a slave, and Pozo, the owner of Lucky and a crewman. The interaction between both is aggressive. I really hated it. For some reason, it hurt me to read such mistreatment. It was pretty ironic to read that in the first act, Pozo wanted to get rid of Lucky, and then who cried? Lucky would cry whenever he realized about the intention of his owner, and then in the second act, Pozo had gone blind and he needed Lucky to survive. So it looked to me like a punishment, but why? If life makes no sense, if life makes no sense, if God is an easy way to kill philosophical thoughts upon which existentialists doubt, so what was the purpose of this divine revenge? Maybe life itself, it's a joke. It's a nonsense irony. Back to the ephemeral and irrelevant conversations all the characters had. I thought life is just full of simple conversations we all have within ourselves in order to make apparently silly decisions that determine our path and sometimes represent the real struggle in life. Like when you open your eyes and get out of bed. So, do I wake up now or in 5 more minutes? Have you ever wondered what if you decided not to get out of bed? Just a simple move that can change your day, and some of you might not see it that way. But what if you didn't find any meaning in life and ask yourself what the purpose of waking up every day is?